Thank goodness you're here.
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 My goodness you're here. I'm tired.
Tired? Why are you so tired?
Just work. It's been a wild summer. It's almost done. I can tell people are getting ready to, leave. All the out-of-towners.
You go to spring break, or no, spring break. You go to spring break during summer?
No, nothing that fun. It's just been so many olds from out of town.
Yeah,
Illinoisans.
Visit scenic Muskegon.
New Yorkers, Floridians,
Why?
Massachusetts?
Mass holes, as
Well,
people call them.
I know. And they like to call themselves that, but still. They're not all mean. It's honestly, we only had a few real big assholes. It's mostly the olds coming into a brewery that for the last 10 years has just been a brewery with a tap room and maybe some bar mix for offering. And they walk in and they're like, so, where do I queue up for seating? And it's no, that's not what? Have you ever been inside a bar? What?
Well, they've been to Applebee's and TGI Fridays. Those are both bars.
I don't know. It's just been weird.
So why do people come from all over the eastern side of the United States to Muskegon? What is there in Muskegon that attracts people?
I actually don't know. I've lived here for 8 years now, and I have no clue what the appeal is outside of I like it. There's a lot of state land. It's the lakes. I assume they're coming for the natural amenities of the area. I do know a lot of them are the issue we're having with housing, though, because they're coming to their summer homes.
Right, so they summer in Muskegon.
Mm-hmm. They have, a house on one of the lakes. It's a nice place. And I'm finding, some of them also are the owners of some of the rental homes in the area. So, they're the reason I'm having trouble finding affordable housing. As a local, I really appreciate that.
I mean, I honestly, growing up in Michigan, I only really knew of Muskegon as a place where people went to go hunt, and so I assumed it was just a tiny frontier town, something you'd see out of the Alaskan gold rush, and then there's just a bunch of guys with guns walking around and deer slung over their backs. It's
slowly becoming a little more like a Hampton Roads, where nothing's big. We're not city. But you have these city more urban pockets around suburbs and long stretches of highway that connect the regions together.
So just most of America.
Most of small town America, yeah. I don't know. It's just starting to get big. We've got a lot of money coming into the area. I don't know how I feel about that because it's all outside money, which means what we generate is going to go back outside of the town. So, whatever. That's not what this podcast is about.
Yeah, sorry. This is actually the Save State Land Use Development Podcast. Today, we're talking about zoning laws in Western Michigan.
Look, I'm just saying there's a whole new place on Adelaide Point where they're trying to develop these nice kind of city center style shops. And they are in a lawsuit with the city right now where they're trying to have private beach access for that shop when, it's in the state constitution that they can't do that. They're trying to find all kinds of tricky ways to get around that.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's not a thing.
No. But they have a lot of money invested, so they might get their way anyways.
It's the only time I've ever been on granted, there are bits of the beach that you don't want to walk on, especially on the Erie side of Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
But usually, if it's something that's blocked off, it's because it's government stuff. It's And usually then it's like, this is a super fun site. Don't go walking here.
We got a few of those. We just finished collapsing one of the coal stacks. So we'll figure out something to do with that in the next 30, 50 years.
Speaking of collapsing coal stacks,
oh,
how about that post-Thatcherite Northern Britain there, the Barnsley and the North, Geordies.
Get on with it. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, so thank goodness you're here, Mike. We're playing Thank Goodness You're Here.
Thank goodness you're here, Arvid.
Thank goodness you're here.
Mm-hmm.
A game in which you play as Phil Collins exploring a downtrodden British city.
How delightful. Like, really just a really fun game. I know I've talked about on the pod before, like the old Who Framed Roger Rabbit point and clicks that I used to play, like these cartoon point and clicks back in the day, and that's what it reminded me of. They advertised it as a slapformer, which, yeah, I appreciate. It's got that, it's got like a slapstick element to the humor. You literally slap people and objects and anything. It's the only thing outside of jumping you can do is slap.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of like children's games from back in the 90s, like a lot of like even edutainment things. They would always go out of their way to make everything interactable, like everything you could click on, like you click on it 5 times and like a balloon would pop or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what I felt first. Aside from some of the cruder humor and elements, I'm like, this is just a kid's game from like back in the day, except for like I don't have to do like a math problem.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's about 3 hours long.
Yeah, if that.
Yeah. I think I also like took in the sights and like made sure I slapped every single thing I could. So I think it took me a little longer than it would for most people to get through it.
Yeah, I thought I was pretty thorough, but I missed quite a few achievements. So there's obviously a lot of stuff you can. There's stuff left unslapped, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But like, so like I don't even really know how to describe it because it's so. I don't know. It's a humor game. Like humor is the first and foremost point of the game.
Yep.
And a lot of that humor derives from like what I'm assuming is like northern British working class society, which not something I know a ton about, although I have seen Brassed Off. So
okay.
I'm assuming that
okay.
that's enough. You kind of progress through the game by, I wouldn't say solving puzzles, but like you click on enough stuff till you end up clicking on the thing that is like the thing that someone wants you to do a thing.
You interact with the environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You interact with the environment, and then more of the environment opens up, and then you can go back and go through stuff. It's very linear. Like you end up going back places, but it's always like you end up going back there on like a loop of locations. Like this isn't like to me like a traditional point and click in that sense where you can like kind of constantly move through the same screens. Like you you can do that, but it's hard to because there's like in order to get back somewhere you end up having like go like you can't just go down the street. You have to like go into a roof and then down through a gutter and then you're on the other part of the street. And if you want to go back there, you have to go forward and then go into like a sewer that goes back to the other part of the street. So like it is connected, but it's all very
it's not open world.
No, by no means, no.
No, the whole thing starts with, I'm not exactly sure. You work in, is it a county clerk's place or something?
Some governmental administration that is higher than the local mayor's office.
Yeah, and the whole point is your boss needs you to go talk with the mayor for some procedure. It really doesn't matter because once you get to the mayor's office, you're told that it's going to be a bit of a wait, and then you just start wandering through the town trying to pass the time.
Yeah, like basically the entirety of the game takes place while you are waiting for the mayor to ask you to help the town. Meanwhile, you end up helping the town, kind of. Mostly you just kind of make things worse, but
I don't know
it ends
about
up
that.
helping in some ways.
You
I mean, you
you
start a
help
lot
a
of
repairman
fires.
retrieve a bunch of tools. You help
Mhm.
catch, at least for a brief moment, a thief in the area. You help bake a really big meat pie. You mow a lawn.
Yeah.
You do
Actually, I
murder
didn't.
one flower. Oh, you didn't see that
Yeah.
sequence?
No, I was confused by the lawnmower and ended up doing something else. And then when I got back to the lawnmower, wasn't there. So
You have to
I
jump.
was like, oh, I
Yeah, you
missed
got to
that.
jump. It's one of the few times that like jumping to
To
interact
jump
with the
and not a
object
slap.
versus a
Yeah.
slap makes it go. Yeah.
It's quite early on, so I kind of just assumed it was something that I'd have to come back to. Like this game, kind of like there isn't anything that you like. Everything you do, like generally speaking, there's like interactive bits of jokes. I guess I don't even know how you would describe it, but then there's like a big one that moves the story forward, or at least moves like the setting forward. So like you have to do all the side quests before you do the main quest. Although calling them quests is insane because this is not that kind of game at all.
Tasks.
Tasks,
Sure.
like
It
yeah,
What I like about it is the entire game is a cartoon. And
yes,
this is something I've talked about before, but like as more and more games are trying to become more realistic looking, I like us using the power of, modern technology to make our games look more like the cartoons we watched. I think that's kind of a fun avenue for games. So I'm always excited when I see a real style cartoon game. I don't know, it's really sleek. Yeah, when you complete a task, you go into like a little vignette, like a short cartoon of the characters, and kind of progresses the story along, and it's got a lot of humor to it. It's a hard game to describe without just going like, "Hey, just watch like someone play
yeah.
it for, 2 hours."
Yeah, like there's something about this that almost feels like you mentioned the Roger Rabbit point and click from back in the day. This almost feels like it's a point and click game adaptation of a TV show that doesn't exist.
Mhm.
Like there's this is the video game version of like an Adult Swim cartoon that was only made for like Yorkshire or something like that.
It could have very easily been like a bunch of little shorts that were interstitials to a larger program, kind of all tied together. Yeah, absolutely. This didn't need to be a video game. I like that they put it in a video game format. It just made it more digestible, and I like that aspect of interacting with it. But I would have been just as thoroughly enthralled with it if it had just been like a 2-hour YouTube animation.
Well, one thing I like about this is all the little details that go into this, and I don't know if you could like you can appreciate that way more in a video game, like how many little like bits of text are written on stuff, or like just little visual gags, like a lot of them are like puns and stuff. There's an inordinate amount of insects for some reason everywhere.
Yep.
Just tons of insects to squish. There's like graffiti, and like there's a lot of little things that I
lot
think
of sight
that I would
gags.
probably. Yeah, exactly.
Which are
Like,
great
there's,
for a podcast.
well, there's also one graffito that you see like while you're passing through a drain pipe, and it's not very obvious, but it says it's like one of those Calvin things, peeing, but it's not Calvin, it's the character in the game, and he's peeing on the words ludonarrative. Uh, I felt very seen by that. Just, like, yeah, that is definitely how. I mean, I should say I like games that describe themselves as ludonarrative and all that. I just think it's a stupid term for people who have their heads way too far up their own ass. But it's like, yeah, it's a hard game to talk about because it is so much just like kind of watching a thing. And again, it's because it's like it's humor, so humor is always hard to criticize because it's subjective, and also like depends entirely on timing and all kinds of stuff that like we could just say all the jokes in it and it wouldn't be that interesting of a podcast.
No.
But there's some bits that I got, and those were funny, usually because they were like pun related and stuff like that. But there's definitely a lot of stuff that I'm like, why is there this, like, it must be like something that's very localized, or at least more localized to Britain than, me watching, Red Dwarf or whatever.
I'm sure it is. I do remember there was a guy who used to come by the house when I was young, a coworker of my dad's from Northern England, and when he spoke, I never understood a word he was saying. And my dad said it took me a very long time to figure out how to understand him. And that kind of reminded me of this. So all the little verbal gags, the way things are written out, I just attributed to that. And then I leaned into it just being like, well, it's just absurdist. Like the P's are named Peens. Like I'm sure for a different inside gag for them, but that's just absurd anyways on its face. So
oh yeah, no, there's definitely
I laugh,
a good
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's not entirely dependent on it. But
You don't
there's
have
some
to be
jokes
inside
I'm
the
sure.
joke to get it.
No.
At least on the first level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thankfully, because otherwise,
This would just be too weird. Yeah.
well, that's the thing. I was talking about this with a relative recently about how like Simpsons and like Family Guy have made pretty big inroads into Europe, but King of the Hill can't and never will ever have any like role in European stuff, just because it is so American that like you can't set like it's a very boring show if you take out all of the American like the way it's able to kind of like criticize, but at the same time like kind of have a fondness for these types of characters and these people that like I don't think anyone who hasn't lived in America is going to get that at all.
No.
Similarly, I once showed my cousin the Boondocks, because I had it on DVD, and he was just like mystified by it. He was just like, I think he was worried that it's like some secret racist thing, and I was like, no, it's not.
Nope.
It's just. I mean, I get that you don't have any context for this being like a kid who lives in rural Sweden, or, but maybe yeah. So I mean, I guess is what I'm saying is like there are ways to do these kind of like region specific humor bits where you're kind of pointing at specific cultures that aren't like whatever, and still have humor that works outside of it.
And I think the key to that is absurdity, because that's going to translate to all cultures. Like just something shocking, like the twist is always going to make someone laugh when they expect one thing versus the other. They don't have to understand the cultural reference.
Yeah, there's like a surreal gag. Like I'll spoil one of the later tasks you have to do. There's a guy who's bedridden, and he wants you to go do his shopping, but he also doesn't want anyone else to touch his food. So all of a sudden his arms just grow really, really long, and he throws them out the window, and you just have to follow his arm and like help the arm go through doors and stuff like that. And it's a lot of goofy, like there's like a weird logic to it, and it's really funny, and like it's not related at all to anything, but it works pretty well, I thought.
Yeah. Similar like extra long sight gag that really got me was the sausage as it like extrudes out the pipe onto the city street, onto the old woman on the bench, and she just pulls out a Sharpie and draws eyes on it and just treats it like her pet dog.
Yeah.
So good. Just so many little things like that. Every little like task is, takes like 1 or 2 minutes to like walk through an area, interact with something, and then you're usually in some short clip or animation you may or may not have control of. It was enjoyable. I was able to play the whole thing in one sitting because of how digestible that was.
Yeah, exactly. The one thing this thing kind of reminded me of, like as like a humor touchdown, was actually like the Beef and Dairy podcast, where it has like this kind of like, this. Yeah. So Beef and Dairy is much more serious satire. Like it's more like deadpan about it. It's like satirizing BBC radio, and I used to listen to a lot of BBC radio because, in the early days of online radio, there wasn't a lot of choices, and I lived in Sweden. It doesn't matter. Point is, like, I think that this has there is something that I'm missing. Like in the same way that I can listen to Beef and Dairy and kind of realize what it's poking fun of, because I listen to Radio 4 at 4 in the morning. You just listen to like Gardner's Question Time and shit. Like I kind of can get what it's going for. It's hard to explain. Also, I think didn't Matt Berry do some of the voices? Isn't that?
Oh, I heard so many people, like at least the gardener, I'm pretty sure was Matt Berry, but it could have been someone doing a very good Matt Berry impression, because Matt Berry is already doing an impression of like an older actor.
Yeah. I Yeah, Matt Berry is in it, but that's the only name that's the only like name here I recognize.
Yeah.
The other thing is, so when I first saw this, I was a little trepidatious because the art style is, I don't even know what the term is, but it reminded me of like some of your newer adult animation that I haven't really clicked with, like your Ricks and Mortys.
Mm-hmm.
And it isn't really like that, or at least it hit different with me than that.
You thought it was going to be more like a not acid burnout isn't the right way to describe it, but just like your middle of the night stoner animation comedy.
Yeah, well, like that. I thought it was going to be more mean spirited. I guess that's the other thing about this game is that despite the fact that it's kind of like it does, I guess like King of the Hill, where it's kind of like showing a lot of like quote unquote ugly people and ugly situations and such. It is very compassionate towards a lot of the characters, or at least it frames them as like just like it doesn't try and make them into like exaggerated monsters. You know, they're just characters.
Yeah, I don't know. It's such a hard game to talk about.
Yeah, it really is.
This probably like knowing what I know now after we've gone into it, I probably wouldn't have chosen this as a game for the podcast. We were looking for something short. This definitely fits the bill.
Yeah.
It's just everything about it is so dense. This would be better as a stream than.
I mean, even
then,
like I think that like then what we're gonna do, like talk about it midway through. Like I feel like you should just
it's just
play it.
That's what I'm saying. Like you would just react with an audience like as it comes over you. I don't think there's anything you can really critically break down about it unless you're actually a critic who has the tools in their arsenal.
Well, even then though, I mean that's the other thing. It's like because this is so narrative and humor driven, which is like it's all very linear as well. There's not much to like talk about from that perspective. You can't really talk about the story because there isn't really a story. You can't really talk about like the way the controls work or anything. Like the animation. I will say
there's not a main story for your character, but there is an overarching story for the townspeople. That's really what it gets into, is the lives of the townspeople as you see them go throughout their day. I think the one that really caught me the most was the meat pie. Like that entire sequence. Not going to spoil everything, but you actually go inside like a meat verse for a brief bit and see an unfathomable meat horror help bring it to life. And then the whole thing at the end leads to a giant meat pie being baked. And then the guy who makes the small meat pies just watching on TV, becoming angrier and angrier.
So I looked into the developer's history after I finished playing this, and they only really have one other game they've made, and it's basically just that meat pie sequence. Like, it's just like in some kind of terrible meat verse where you just move around meat.
Okay.
So obviously they have some passion for butchery, or at least maybe the opposite thereof.
Meats and pastries.
Yeah, just and a lot of this stuff is like stuff that I don't even like. I know meat pies and fish and chips are very British, but is it like that British that like that's the only two things anyone eats? I mean, other people obviously they eat peas, but to me that's also like on the British thing.
That's very British. Peas, beans, meat pies. I think anything else for British food, you're actually getting into like Euro-Indian like curries and stuff. Like that's we're kind of leaving the realm of like traditional British.
No, it just feels almost like, Americans, they only use hamburgers and hot dogs, like you have to, I don't know. Yeah. I guess that's probably true for some people.
Yeah, they're poking fun at their own like cultural food, like their staple cozy foods, right? Especially Northern England, that's getting closer to Ireland and all that. So I imagine a pasty of some kind is popular.
Oh, that's Cornwall. That's the South.
Sure. Oh, that's true.
But no, like I feel like this like every like kind of amateur Anglophile who like just watches Downton Abbey and Doctor Who and thinks that Britain is like the most amazing place on earth should have to play this game.
I always like as a Doctor Who fan didn't think Britain's the most amazing place on earth, which is why Doctor Who almost never stays in Britain. Like they go somewhere else that's interesting. Everyone's
I
so
guess
excited to
that's-
be with the Doctor because they get the fuck out of London.
Well, that's not true. Usually, sometimes they go back in time in London.
Sometimes they go back in time in London.
I mean, I actually have not watched a lot of Doctor Who, so I don't actually.
I just
know.
figure those are low budget episodes where like they don't have the budget for like the set pieces.
Yeah.
To go somewhere.
I mean,
else.
the most of the Doctor Who I've watched is like the old '70s stuff, where it's just like, and now they're in a field in Wales, and now they're in a field in another part of England, and sometimes they pretend those are other planets.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course. That's like anyone trying to shoot a scene about like the New York City streets, but it's all in LA actually.
Or Toronto.
Yeah.
Even,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
Vancouver.
Vancouver would be the smarter one, but yeah.
How every exterior in television for the latter half of the 20th century was just the Hollywood Hills.
Mm-hmm.
So, or the whatever, not the Hollywood Hills, the hills, but like because like I watched a lot of like MASH growing up, so I remember watching that, like watching the intro to MASH, and I'm like, man, all these places kind of look like Korea. Like just kind of not really getting that, like that was also filmed in California.
Yep.
Right?
Yep. So, any final thoughts on Thank Goodness You're Here?
No, I mean you should play it.
Yeah.
I mean it's a great little fun game. It's and like aside from some kind of humor toward the end, I would even say you could. I mean, if you can play this with your kids. A kid could play this by himself. It's really easy.
There is like one specific scene that I can think of where two sisters, like one sister's just calling the other one a bitch constantly.
Yeah,
that's
and
like
then later on,
the only one I can think of where like the kid doesn't need to get the humor, like they're just going to hear the word bitch.
yeah. Aside from like, and then it's very rare that anyone actually swears in this, or at least like says American swear words. There's like terrible British things they say, but like I honestly feel like you could just get this to a kid and let them screw around with it. Just let them run around and smack bugs and smack like
Bums.
Yeah, a lot of bums. It's just a kind of a sandbox kind of a thing to play around in. I don't know.
There is that continuous gag that goes on for a long time with like throughout different characters where, what was it, Reggie's wife could learn a thing or two, like just in all kinds of different, oh, that's a big hole, Reggie's wife could learn a thing or two, or oh, that's a tight grip, Reggie's wife could learn a thing or two, just from all different kinds of characters. I'm assuming that means she's quite the loose woman, but
yeah, I forgot about that.
But
Again, I don't know if a kid's
gonna
gonna get
pick
that.
up on that. I used to watch Rocko's Modern Life and Ren and Stimpy when I was a kid, and I never got all those jokes until I was older. It was just
Aside from
funny
some
because it was
swears,
weird.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's where I would put this.
Yeah, that's the charm of this. It's just quirky.
Yeah, honestly, if you took this actual swear words out, this could totally fit into like a '90s Nickelodeon thing. Although the animation's a little too good for
Yeah,
that.
I was gonna say you'd have to bring some like
too
choppy
smooth.
like black lines and dots onto it and add some more geometric like patterns onto the clothing.
Just randomly remove some frames so it kind of just chops in and out. Yeah.
But yeah, no, very enjoyable game. Really recommend playing it, or like I said, watching it played. I think you'd get just as much enjoyment out of it that way too. I don't know, unless you really like knowing that you're in control of the slap.
I mean, that's the thing, is I could see myself watching someone play this and then like going into the next room like, but you didn't slap that thing in the corner.
Yeah.
You didn't slap the telephone booth. Like, like that would drive me nuts.
Yeah,
because
you didn't
but I've also
exhaust
already played
everyone's
it.
dialogue by slapping
Exactly.
them. Yeah.
You didn't slap them on the butt 3 times. You know, come on. What kind of
Only
gamer are
3?
you? But I think that's my problem with like streaming in general. I don't watch a lot of people streaming video games unless it's speed running, and that's because, and you know, in that situation I don't know what anyone is doing, so I have no opinion about it. But yeah, no, a lot of fun.
Yeah,
and very humorous.
Good. It was a good choice for a game, at least just for my tight, busy schedule right now for work.
Yeah,
like that's nice. If you don't have a long time to play a game, but you want to play something to completion, this is perfect. Yeah,
and coming back from like a kind of a stressful summer, kind of a good little thing to get us back into it.
Yeah,
it works out for us too.
It does.
All right. We can take a break.
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, I'm going to just grab water from around the corner, but yeah.
Yeah, me too. All right, let's take a quick break, and then we'll do some news.
Going to talk about sandworms.
You know, we've been doing this for a while when I get away during the break, and I start humming the interstitial music to the break while I'm away, because I know I'm going to edit it in later, and not because I'm actually...
And in my head, I was just going... Dun, 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 dun. That's just stuck in my head constantly.
No.
Just the background music to the game. So delightful.
Yeah,
we didn't even talk about that.
It's pretty... It's
Yeah.
It can get a little repetitive, but it was
Oh, it's very repetitive.
All right, so you promised sandworms, Mike.
Yeah, I did. And we do see some during that official gameplay trailer of the, or I guess reveal is what you'd call that.
For Goat Simulator?
Yeah. Squirrel with a gun, actually, is what I was going to talk about here. But no, Dune Awakening. I don't know how I feel about this anymore. I was really interested at first. I was nervous because, how are they going to handle the crafting system? Is it going to be so abstract that it's going to feel stupid? But now I've been looking at the combat for it, and I'm getting more nervous about it. Did you watch the reveal?
I did, but I walked away with almost no opinion of it. So
that's kind of what I'm nervous about, is it looks too generic. Like, they have these big combat shooting sequences. You've got your Chris knife out. You've got these assault rifles you're using, and you're just getting normal, like, hit crosshair X's popping up on the screen with a skull when you make the kill. It just feels Gears of War to a degree. There's something to it where it's like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I guess the thing is, because they're kind of doing this version of Dune where they're trying to not focus on, like, the Atreides and that sort of stuff. I guess what I was thinking it'd be something more like Star Wars Battlefront kind of a thing, where you're kind of focusing on, like, the troops and stuff like that. And to me, that kind of checks out, at least for, like, the first Dune book, where there's a lot of just, like, space soldiers fighting other space soldiers. So that kind of makes sense in a way, but I don't know that that's necessarily what the Dune universe is good at. Mm-hmm.
Like, like, to me, like, the best Dune game might just be something like Crusader Kings or something. Like, I think, like, the nitty-gritty violence part of it is not what people go to Dune for, but I don't know.
Right. Yeah, it seems interesting. It looks visually so impressive. I'm probably going to pick it up. I'm probably going to play it. I'll probably play it way more than I'm expecting to play it too, but it could be almost called anything else. Like, they could have literally just, like, said, like, well, we didn't get the rights to Dune, but we're going to do a Dune-esque, like, action game. And I don't know. I think it would have just ended up being the same thing outside of, like, the licensed ornithopters and shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are they are they, like, licensing stuff from the movies for this? Or is this stuff that they're figuring out themselves? Because it looks a lot like the movie stuff.
It looks a lot like the movie stuff. I think, at the very least, they're trying to imitate the movie appearance of things, I think, just to draw in more people, like, new fans of the movies into it. But I don't know. Not as excited for it as I thought I was going to be.
Yeah, the other thing that was, like, the big thing I was looking forward to was the Civ 7 gameplay reveal.
Yeah.
And I have to say, like, I don't think it looks bad. It doesn't look great. Like, I mean, like, I kind of joked about this when we talked about Humankind when that came out, that I was like, can't wait to see what Civ steals from Humankind and puts into Civ 7. And I kind of think that maybe they should have eased off a bit. Like, I think maybe they took too much from Humankind,
Mm-hmm.
That's the name of the game, right?
Yeah, Humankind. You got it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I have increasingly grown wary of preview trailers and stuff like that, especially for these sorts of things. Because I mean, like Felix's last game was that Midnight Suns game, which I thought looked terrible and actually was a lot of fun. So I am more than willing to give them the benefit of the doubt, but did not fill me with a lot of excitement. Also, I'm gonna. This is gonna sound. I'm gonna kvetch for a second. So give me.
Yeah.
Like, so they had this big thing leading up to the reveal of who the narrator voice was gonna be, and I was looking forward to it, and then it ended up being Gwendolyn Christie, who I don't dislike. I mean, I was very excited to see that they were doing a lady voice, but I kind of feel like they could have done better. I feel like Gwendolyn Christie has a very like posh British accent, which is I think what they were aiming for. But I think her posh British accent is kind of generic. Like I feel like she could be like the voice of someone the lady on the intercom on like a public transit or something like that. Like where I'm just kind of like, okay, like I feel like especially if you go back and like listen to the voices that they've done who are men, they don't always pick like prestigious actors. They kind of go with actors who have distinct voices, like Sean Bean and Leonard Nimoy and what's his face from all those things with the really gruff, distinctive voice whose name eludes me in Civ 5. But you know what I mean? Like I feel like I would have preferred them to find a lady with a more distinctive voice. But still looking forward to it, obviously.
Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be a Civ game.
Yeah,
like the narrator is the least. Half the time I'm like playing while I'm watching something or listening to a podcast, anyways. So I'm okay with it being an unobtrusive narrator.
Yeah, and I forgot which one it was. If it was Civ 4 or Civ 5, where for the expansions they didn't get the actor they had to do the narrator for the main game, so they just had Sid Meier do the narration for the expansions, which was that was fine by me too. I would have him if he could do the whole thing. I'd be fine with that too.
Sure. Yeah, that's the other thing I'm really not looking forward to is how quick do you think it's going to take for the first expansion for Civ 7 to come out?
Well, they've already announced some like day one costume DLC and stuff. Jesus. But I mean, I think that they learned through Civ 6's development that they should stick to expansions and not like meter out the little individual, because they did that for the first couple years where they were just kind of like releasing a Civ here, new map stuff here, campaign here, and I think that didn't really. I don't know if that didn't do poorly. Either way, I didn't like it, and then about midway through they stopped with that and they kind of just switched to doing proper expansions. And Civ has usually been pretty regular about waiting a year or two before they put out expansions, especially because Civ's like the thing that makes Civ is how tightly balanced it is and how like it can be, how it aims for like a certain amount of competitiveness and all that jazz, especially considered to most like 4X games where balancing is impossible. So I mean, if they're smart, they'll wait a while. They'll just constantly, patch it every week and make a big mess of it. But who knows? What else? Hey, our favorite game developer. Speaking of Britain, very Britain-focused episode. Uh-oh. Peter Molyneux's back with his new game, Masters of Albion. Just stick a Union Jack up here, an auditory Union. I'll just play like Rule Britannia right here.
Yeah, there you go. Yep, not you know what? This one's like the least offensive, honestly.
Yeah.
Like of his game.
Just saying.
It seems pretty straightforward. I don't think there's going to be so much, I don't know. Like the things they say they're going to be able to do, other games can do that already, so I don't feel...
Well, they've already done that already, because it's just black and white, essentially.
Well, no, they're adding in new things where, like, you're going to be able to make sure, like, every person is going to be able to wear clothes that you want them to, like, all of these little, like, Peter Molyneux things. Like,
yeah, where it's like, promises. Oh, you mean, like... yeah, like in... It doesn't... Why is my brain like this?
I don't know. You might want to... take a look at the time track here and just make a little note. We'll edit in some interstitial. while you figure this out.
RimWorld. Why couldn't I remember the name RimWorld?
Yeah, but that's kind of what I feel like it's going to be. Like, they're promising, like, you're going to be able to design the food that they eat. And it's like, well, probably not. There's going to be, like, some preset things of, like, if you grow apple crops, like,
yeah,
feed
then all of a sudden
pies,
you have to make
like,
apple pie. Yeah,
right.
Like Dwarf Forge has been doing for 20 years.
Uh-huh. So it just, which I'm fine with. It's just,
yeah.
I don't know. Oh, he annoys me so much.
Borderlands 4? How excited are we about Borderlands 4?
You can't tell, but I'm giving a thumbs down. Big ol' thumbs down. Not at all. From everything I read too, it was incredibly underwhelming for people to watch the trailer. I didn't see any footage of that, but apparently there was a long awkward silence from people. I don't know if that's just because the movie is so bad that people right now are just sick of it, or if it's because everyone hated Borderlands 3 and we just want Borderlands 2 again. If you're going to do it at all, do we even need a Borderlands anymore?
No, I think that's more the thing. It's just I think that Borderlands has run its course, and I don't think, like, wait a while, let us have some nostalgia for it, but like it's because that's the thing. It's like things from 8 to 10 years ago are like the height of uncoolness.
Mm-hmm.
New shit is cool. There's like a big dip, and then after like 10 years, it starts getting cool again, and it goes back up in coolness.
Yeah, but the coolness,
and you have to wait longer.
Borderlands was like this raunchy looter shooter that we had never seen, like the art style before. We've seen all of that now, and we have way better looter shooters. Like, just go play. Not that it's the best, but like go play Destiny 2 or something. Like there's other options.
Mean, I think most people have already done that. Like I think Borderlands is just.
I mean, besides they ruined Borderlands 3 with the Mayhem mode, and if they try to bring that shit back, like you couldn't even have a stable build because things constantly changed on the higher difficulties to a point where you couldn't plan your run. It's just fucking horrible.
Yeah.
I don't know. I got strong feelings on the Borderlands series.
Apparently, I mean, I have to say, I checked out pretty hard after Borderlands 2, and then I played a little bit of 3, and I was like,
No, yeah, 3 was fun up until you get to like Endgame, and then they ruined the Endgame by trying something new, which, hey, that's fine, but the community told them for so long this isn't working, and they kept trying to tweak things, but they never changed the core complaint, which was that like mayhem randomizer at the end. Sometimes it would just be like, oh yeah, so electric damage doesn't do anything. It's like, well, my entire build that I've been like gearing for this entire game is based off of that. So you're telling me that my character can't play this mode. Cool.
Yeah, I think it's probably also like assumes you're playing on a very easy difficulty with a lot of friends.
Yeah.
Maybe
that's not how I used to play the game though. I don't know. Yeah, maybe that is just a me thing, but no, I'm not interested at all in the new Borderlands. They're going to have to show something, like that trailer's not enough. It's just a teaser. They're going to have to show something really, really revolutionary to it for me to get interested. And if it's just more claptrap shit, I'm fucking out.
I mean, the thing is, it's like Claptrap could be one of those characters like Alf, where like if they just let it go away for long enough, we could be like, oh man, I love this. Except now he's turning into Garfield because it never goes away, and you're like, God, get this fucking cat away from me. You know, like it's not. It ain't the way to do this. You're not managing your IP correct.
Now I have a sneaky suspicion that Claptrap's going to be so integral to the plot of Borderlands 4. Like maybe even become like the big bad boss, like some amalgamation of Claptraps. Yeah. Ugh. Oh, I hope it's at least not that. No, I think the one thing I'm really looking forward to is Monster Hunter Wilds. Like, the more I see about it, the more impressed I am. I've always enjoyed those games. It just looks like it's going to be more of a great thing.
Yeah. I think that's all I got from Gamescom. There was a Nintendo Direct just a couple days ago. Not much. I mean, you can kind of tell that the Nintendo Switch stuff is kind of winding down. Although I did think it was interesting that they announced Civ 7 for the Switch, which means that, like, I'm assuming that means the Switch 2 is not going to be announced before February. Then.
I mean, they specifically said that they are not talking about the Switch 2 in this latest Direct.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I think everyone kind of expected it to be out this year, and I kind of think at this point
the rumors are now
not gonna
pushing
be
it back
out
to
this year.
February 2025, but
Yeah.
that might even be just when we get the announcement. We don't know enough about like the hardware of it right now. They might be encountering some challenges on that end.
Yeah. Because, I mean, like, all this stuff is, like, some indie games that, like, are, look fun. Nothing jumps out at me. Tons of remakes and HD remasters, which, I mean, I'm all down for the Suikoden remastered. I'll be playing that, but, like, is that even how it's pronounced? I realized that, like, I've never said that out loud. Well, I have to you, probably, and other friends who probably also say Suikoden.
Yeah, that's how I'd say it, but maybe that's just because that's how you say it. Now there's just, not that much that I'm excited about outside of, like, I don't know, Indiana Jones. I do want to play that game. That looks like it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that was another thing. Like, talking about kind of gameplay trailers where I was put off by, the Indiana Jones one actually kind of restored my faith in the game a little bit more, because I was kind of worried, I mean, this being Mammoth Machine Games, that they were just going to do Wolfenstein with an Indiana Jones coat of paint on it.
Yeah.
Which I would still absolutely play. Like, that sounds fun.
I would, but
they've
already come out and been like, Indiana Jones isn't a shooter. Like, it doesn't make sense for it to be a shooter. It's like, good. It should be like an action platformer, like an adventure platformer.
With, like, some good puzzle elements, too.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Ideally. I'm much more excited for that than I was before. Mm-hmm. Or at least my wariness has been assuaged.
How are you feeling about Star Wars Outlaws?
I mean, that's coming out real soon. It's not coming out this week. It's probably out by the time this comes out.
Yeah, probably.
I don't know. Like, I mean, the thing is, like, I'm a little bitch when it comes to Star Wars stuff, because I'll just play anything that says Star Wars on it. I'll watch whatever you put Star Wars in front of me. I consume that content. That is, I might not love it, but it's an impulse that has been ingrained in me for the last 20 years. So I'm gonna play it, and I'm probably gonna also, like, secretly I kind of like the Ubisoft boring shit that they've been doing forever. Like, as much as I complain about Assassin's Creed, I have played through every single Assassin's Creed, well, almost every single one.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, it works for me in some way. Not in a good way, maybe. In the way that, like, I think I play Ubisoft games like other people watch terrible reality TV. Like,
From what I've heard about, like, I've seen some of the early reviews for it. I might still play it, but there's some things that are concerning. One, they're saying the combat's not that engaging, that it's pretty middle of the road, which that's disappointing. I wish they had come up with some, I don't know, we'll see. We'll see how middle of the road it is. There's a lot of stealth in it, and a lot of the stealth is auto-fail. So the mission just ends, and you have to restart at checkpoints if you're seen, which that could, I don't know. I feel like we've kind of gone past that. That was Assassin's Creed, like, 1.
Yeah,
they fixed that by 2. Yes. So I feel like there could have been something different for that, unless there's a really important story reason for why this mission has to succeed without anyone seeing you. And even then, like, Hitman and Metal Gear have come around. Like, the whole idea is like, well, if you do get seen, you got to get creative about how to make it so they don't alert someone. That could have been more engaging. But from everything I'm hearing, it's just a auto-fail screen and a restart.
Yeah, I don't mind auto-fail and stealth if it's done quickly, or if it's, like, done interestingly. Like, you have to, like, I don't mind if it's auto-fail, but it can't just be like, go back to menu, click, 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 start over. Like, either do it fast, so like we get back there, and you have, like, some checkpoints along the way, or, like, make it narratively interesting and, like, have characters say different things. Like, that is one thing that something I was thinking about, and I was one of my many attempts at trying to get into Elden Ring, which has never been. Like, it just says you died, like, fuck you. Like, but, like, in other games, like, I think about, like, the games I like to play that I have played on very difficult modes. Like, I played all the Arkham games on, like, the maximum difficulty, because I'm a weird fucker. But the thing is, every time you die, you get a different, like, animation from a bad guy telling how much you suck. You know what I mean? Like, why don't we have that in games anymore? I would totally play. I would totally be okay with instant fail stealth sequences if it was just like, or like, you get like some cool monster eat you or something. That'd be fun.
How do you feel about knowing that there's going to be lock picking mini game in this?
Oh, I mean that's.
I also
that's
heard you
for
can
me.
turn off the lock picking, which is probably what I will do. I am so sick of lock picking mini games, and from everything I've seen, it's just your standard one. It's just turn something until something opens, and then you hit a button, and then you turn it again until something opens, and you hit a button. Like, what the fuck are we doing?
It's not even a pipe dream clone.
No,
like
it's going to be like one of the little tools that spins. Like from literally anytime you've seen like R2-D2 or someone hack into a thing, it's just going to be a port with a circle that spins, and that's just their lock picking mini game.
I love it. No,
Horrible.
I mean, like, I'm the wrong person because, like, I love that. Or I don't love it. Like, it's not something I seek out. But, like, at the same time, every time I go to something, I'm like, oh, yeah, I got to do this. Like, actually, that's a good segue into the other thing I wanted to talk about, if you don't mind. I've been playing the new World of Warcraft expansion. And I don't really have, like, a ton I want to say about it yet because it's very early days. And every World of Warcraft expansion is the best World of Warcraft expansion in the first week of it being out, in my opinion. And then, its actual legacy tends to take a little while for it to settle in. But one thing I really like about it is that when you mine stuff in this expansion, there's a chance that it's going to, like, throw bombs at you. The actual mining node will. So you have to, like, pay attention. You can't auto mine. Like, you can't just run around auto doing things. Like, you have to, like, make sure you're not, like, they're not throwing bombs at you because the bombs will do half your life and damage and fling you backwards. And if you're on the cliff, that is death.
Is this just their solution for like bots?
I mean, maybe, but like, I just really like the interactivity of it. There's a lot more of that stuff where they're trying to make more of like they're not getting rid of a lot of the repetitive stuff in the game because it's an MMO. You can't get rid of the repetitive stuff, but they've done a lot more to like make it more unpredictable and more, I don't want to say complicated, but complicated in a good way. I don't know. There's more stuff to it. Like crafting now requires like more steps, and there's like a random aspect to it. At least for the crafting I've done so far, it makes for a more engaging game. I mean, it's not actually any more grindy. It's the same grind. It's just that sometimes things are different. It's like sometimes you have to pay attention is all.
Yeah.
And you have to press different buttons. You know what I mean?
I mean, that's interesting. I don't know. I've finally fully released myself from the MMO desire. Like, I don't even want. I don't care what MMO comes out anymore. I think we're beyond the MMO.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very fair, and I don't know. Like, I don't know who's going to an MMO having never played one. Like, I don't know if there's like any like who's like teens who are like, oh, I haven't played. Let's try this World of Warcraft.
Yeah, I'm
like,
hearing that Dawn Trail's coming out for Final Fantasy 14, and I've never played an MMO. Yeah. Let me get in now. Like, no.
I don't believe that. Yeah, I don't think there's. I mean, maybe there are. I don't know what.
Statistically, I'm sure there's some people that like see that and they're
they're just generational players,
yeah.
Right? It's like my dad and my grandfather played, so I'll play too.
I mean, from everything I have learned from the high school workers in the kitchen, they're all just playing like Minecraft and Roblox.
Yeah,
like, that's pretty much
Minecraft
it.
Still is old. I mean, both of those are pretty old. Both of those are like 10, 15 years old games. I mean, imagine that when you were a teenager. I mean, like I played like old games, but playing old games when we were teenagers was a lot different than playing games that old now.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that's kind of the benefit of like a Minecraft or a Roblox is the way it's designed kind of sets itself out of, it's not trying to keep up with the modern time of graphics to begin with, right?
Right.
So it doesn't age itself
and it gets
the same way.
A lot.
Yeah.
But the thing I actually have been playing that I want to talk about, if we're ready for that, do you have any more news?
Oh, I did want to know, are you going to buy yourself a MetaQuest 3 so you can play Batman Arkham Shadows?
No. I saw that, and I'm like...
I got really excited when I just saw Batman Arkham Shadows. I was like, yes, VR only. God damn it.
Yeah,
not only
I know,
VR
exactly.
only, MetaQuest 3 only.
Yeah. I mean, I don't...
Ugh.
Yeah, no
It
thanks.
looks fun. It looks good, actually. Not going to get me to buy a VR headset, though.
No,
At
I don't
least
think.
not a Facebook headset.
I think that's the problem. Is that like I don't know. Maybe. I mean, you have got to make a VR headset that I feel is not a gimmick before I want to buy it. And so far no one has marketed the VR headset as anything other than a fun gimmick. Like taking it out of the realm of novelty and into the realm of usability is what needs to happen, and that isn't there, you know.
Yeah, when a headset becomes something where it's like I can just enjoy playing like Monster Hunter on it
Exactly.
without needing like, ooh, well, the Steam Index, the Valve Index has like finger trackers, so we're gonna make our games need finger motion. Like, that's neat. But also, I just want to like just pitch to me like this is comfortable. You're gonna be able to lay back on your bed and just like enjoy a video game, like something like that. Just something very casual and enjoyable.
Yeah, exactly. There needs to be a VR headset I can play solitaire on.
Yeah.
And then it'll
Yeah, sure.
be okay.
Yeah.
You know. Like I don't want to have special software to use it. Like if I can operate my desktop environment with a VR headset, I will buy one.
Yeah, that would be fine. Or have it be like one of those like anime where like you put me into a mild coma and I just enter the game world. Let's do that.
I'm good.
No, that sounds like fun. Digitize me.
Yeah. Whatever happened to Freakazoid?
That's where your brain went. Okay.
I mean, he got sucked in. I mean, isn't
You're
that
right.
What he
No,
says when he gets sucked in the computer.
Digitize me, daddy. Yeah,
Something like that.
Something very similar. I don't know. We're probably ready for a Freakazoid reboot at this point. Like I've watched some as an adult, and it held up.
Yeah, mostly because it's like constantly referencing things that kids have, like not like gross stuff. It's just like jokes that like kids will never get.
Yeah. Like Ross Perot. Like a lot of bits about Ross Perot.
Yeah, just like jokes about.
Such a weird
Steven
shit. Was Animaniacs or Freakazoid what spawned Pinky in the Brain? Because that all kind of blurs together to me. Okay.
Yeah, I think that Animaniacs came. Well, it was Tiny Toons, and then it was Animaniacs,
Right.
and then stuff basically either span out of Tiny Toons or Animaniacs. I think.
Yeah.
Spun off of.
Yeah.
So you had Slappy Squirrel, which I think actually that was Animaniacs too.
Yeah.
And then the Good Feathers.
Yeah, I don't think Spielberg wasn't attached to Freakazoid, was he?
He might have been. He might have been. I know Mark Hamill shows up one episode.
Oh, yeah.
And they give him the whole, like, I'm not Luke Skywalker bit and everything like that.
Well, I can't wait for the gritty, real-life Freakazoid movie to come out.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I think at this point, like, is anyone actually developing anything that's, like, I'm not saying that, like, Hollywood can't make mistakes. But, like, there's just so much gritty shit now that's doing so poorly. Like, I kind of have to think that they're going to see the writing on the wall. Like that fucking Zack Snyder Star Wars ripoff that cost a gajillion billion dollars that no one watched.
The Rebel Moon, Rise of the Moonchild, or whatever the fuck, and that's part one of three parts
6
of the first story, and there's going to be 3 stories, each with their own 3 parts, so that he's guaranteed for 9 film. Like, it's all ridiculous.
Yeah, and it's all just, like, the most boring but expensive, like, fan fiction. Like,
I was struggling to find something to put
bad.
on last night while I was playing a game, and that kept popping up on the queue, and I was like, no, like, just not even going to put it on, not even for background noise. I just ended up watching Longlegs a second time.
Yeah, I mean, I did the similar thing where I tried to watch the first one, I couldn't get into it. I tried to watch the second one a few days later, like, just because I was like, well, maybe the second one's, but no. And I ended up just watching the old Planet of the Apes. But, like, and then, like, this new Crow reboot that no one likes. You know, like, it's like...
I don't know who asked for that.
No one did. And also, like, why? Especially if you're going to, like, take out all the gothy shit. Like, that's the point? I don't know. Like, I just think that, like, no one wants dark and gritty anymore. You know?
No.
Like...
No, the real
The
world
Barbie
has
movie
gotten
wasn't dark and
gritty.
gritty. I know. People want bright pink. I guess it was like the Oppenheimer was the other movie that came out then. But I don't know. Well, what's the big movie this year?
Is there a big movie this year?
Oh yeah, no.
Is it just the Deadpool movie?
No, the Pixar thing with the
If? Or is it the other one?
Emotions, Inside Out 2.
Inside Out 2.
That one.
I liked Inside Out. I'll probably watch Inside Out 2 when it makes it to Disney's platform.
Yeah, but like, I don't think anyone wants the dark and gritty shit anymore.
No.
And also, like, a dark and gritty reboot of Star Wars. It's just Star Wars.
It is.
Like, Star Wars is already kind of dark and gritty.
Yeah.
Like, everything's dirty. A guy tries to murder his son. There's incest. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Star Wars is already pretty dark and gritty. You don't need to darken them up more.
I mean, I think that's Andor. Like, that's as close as you're going to get to, like, a more gritty version of Star Wars is Andor. And that was good. Like, I actually did enjoy that.
Yeah, no. But, I mean, most of that's just because it's just... Star Wars is a place, not a thing. Like, Andor is just Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy in space. You know, like
it goes to show that like it's a very, I'm not going to say well-crafted universe, but it is an interesting enough, diverse enough like world that has been built that you can just put any story in it.
Yeah, and I think that's why they keep fucking up, because like when they do succeed, it's because like, okay, we're going to take spy movie and put it in Star Wars universe. We're going to take Western and put it in Star Wars universe. We're going to take Kurosawa things, and that's basically just Star Wars. But like, you know, they have you take thing that works and you put it in the Star Wars setting. And when they're just like, we make a Star Wars movie that is essentially a Star Wars movie, you end up with bad things.
Yep.
Or, you know, like Solo.
Or I don't know. I'm on the fence with The Acolyte on whether I enjoyed it or not. I think I did.
Yeah, I think the problem was that they spent too much time building up to stuff that they never got around to doing.
Well, and that's the whole thing, is like the stuff that they like built up to, that was the stuff I was most interested in once they like started to slowly reveal things. And I was like, oh, this is everything I wanted to learn. Like, I've read enough of the books that like I kind of see where they're heading with things. And
should have done this in like the first episode.
Could have really been done in like the first 1 or 2 episodes, and they probably would have gotten renewed for a second season.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like they were writing for 5 seasons, and they're like, this is what we're going to like sprinkle out, and
they just need to get to it. Yeah.
My eyes just kind of glazed over through half that show.
Yep.
Which is unfortunate.
Yeah, because like
Although
those last
X-Men
like 2
97
episodes were great. I haven't watched X-Men 97 yet. I need to.
It's amazing. It's great. I mean, especially if you like the old cartoon.
It's one of the last DVDs I have as a bootleg of all the old cartoon. They even made their own like title sequence for me to scroll through for it. It's great.
Yeah, no, like I do like that. Okay, so let's do what we've been playing.
Oh gosh,
I've been playing
Steam.
So what? Sorry.
No, let me open
right?
Steam. I've been playing so many things lately. I gotta choose one.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go and do my thing real quick,
Sure.
just to get it out of the way while you peruse. So there was a game we actually had on the list to play for the pod, but I ended up playing it, and I kind of feel like we shouldn't bother playing it for the pod. Project Hospital, which is kind of supposed to be like a realistic version of your 2 points or other hospital sims. It's fine. It is. I appreciate that it's like more detailed and more like realistic. So you have to worry about like doctors and machinery and equipment and, you know, shift changes and like patients coming in and leaving and all this other stuff. Like there's a lot more. But at the same time, it like if you were going to advertise your game as being more realistic, I want it to actually be quite a bit more realistic, I guess, because in the end it really just kind of feels like 2 Point but with like a Grey's Anatomy coat of paint on it, as opposed to like actually trying to be that realistic. Like everything's very easy, everything gets cured really simply. They also cut out like all the ugly stuff. Like there's no like, you know, there's no oncology department. No one gets cancer in this game. Like no one gets urinary tract infections. You know, you can work in the ER all night long and no one gets a urinary tract infection somehow. So it's realistic, but only in some ways, and it's like I said, it's like sexified realistic. Like it's not sexified as in like sexually arousing, but like gussied up for TV and stuff like that. And I don't know. It also isn't very well balanced. It's very kind of clunky. It reminds me of like strategy games from 10, 20 years ago where sometimes you kind of had to just find your own fun with it and like, oh, I'm going to build like a really big whatever department just because that sounds like a fun idea to me, as opposed to like it being a well-balanced game that requires you to like. That's one thing about 2 Points, or I think Prison Architect does this pretty well, where you kind of have this like good flow of like, I need to build stuff for more patience, and I need more patience so I can build stuff, and like, or not in Prison Architect they're not patience, but you know what I mean. Right. Like there's like this, and this game just doesn't really manage.
Well, in both of those, they have like their lightheartedness and quirkiness to them that makes it really fun too. Like a hospital can be a pretty depressing place most of the time. You're usually not going there for good reasons. So 2 Point, like, I don't know, that's what I enjoyed the most about it was, unscrewing a light bulb from someone's head and getting their head back on right. Like, that stuff was weird enough that it kept me engaged.
Yeah, and also it's a well-balanced, well-thought-out game. Like, I think that you can... Like, I mean, that's why they've repeated the process with 2 Point University. And something we forgot to mention, 2 Point Museum, which is coming out.
I know, I can't wait. Because
I know
2 Point U is so good.
Yeah, like, it really, like, anyway. Like, so, like, that's the thing is, like, they have, like, a good... They balance the game, and then they put the hospital coat of paint on top, as opposed to trying to be like, well, we'll make a hospital and then build a game around it. Which, I mean, this isn't either of those things. Like, it doesn't feel like... It still feels like a game that looks like a hospital, but doesn't, like, try and be realistic enough to, like, make me... Like, compared to... trying to think of other realistic strategy games where you end up, like, with really detailed stuff. Like, the Workers and Resources I was playing earlier this year, like, where you have to, make sure that you have the right construction equipment and you have the crews to drive the construction equipment to the building so you can build the building, so you can use that building to build parts for other buildings. Like, it just, if you have to be realistic, like, you have to go into it like that. And, I was never worried about having to order more, medication for the pharmacy or anything like that, and mechanic doesn't exist. It's mostly the same theme hospital, 2 Point hospital mechanics, but with the realistic paint on it.
Yeah.
Also, one last, sorry, before you do your thing, I don't normally do this kind of thing, but the Humble Bundle is doing a Resident Evil bundle right now, at least for the next few weeks, and it's like literally every Resident Evil game except the most recent remaster for
Resident Evil
$25.
Resident Evil 4.
Everything but the Resident Evil 4 remake. If you really want to play Resident Evil 4, you should do that. But
well, me personally, I actually just replayed Resident Evil 4 for like the third time recently. The remake. I really enjoy it. No, I've been reinstalling all my Resident Evil games. I'm just getting into that mood again to play through them. So
fall's coming.
I'm looking forward to. I know, like, they already did a remaster of the first Resident Evil game, but it's already kind of aged itself a little bit, and I want to see this new engine. Like, I want to see a new remake of that. I want to see... I've never played the Revelations games. I've heard they're really good. So...
And Zero as well, I'd like to see.
Yep. Yeah. So I really want to see some more of these remakes, and I can't wait for an announcement of 9. It's got to be coming at some point.
Yeah. They've been saying that. Oh, do we want to talk about the new Valve game at all? I mean, I don't feel like we know enough about it.
I mean, we can. But... It's a multiplayer hero shooter, right?
Yeah. And apparently everyone loves it. Everyone who's played it thinks it's the greatest thing ever. It's going to... Which, I mean, I guess it shouldn't be that big of a surprise that the people who make Dota and the people who make Counter-Strike can make a game that just mixes those two things really well.
Sure.
I like the art style. It looks cool. Kind of like a cartoony Sin City with like monster vibes. I don't know.
Yeah.
I like it.
It's gonna be fun. I don't know. Deadlock. There it is. I keep thinking Concord, and I'm like, no, that's the failed one. That's the failed one from Sony.
That's the one that everyone's talking about it, but no one's playing it.
Yeah.
Like, I think there are more articles about how Concord has failed than there are people
Specifically, they're citing the PC version, which has under 700 concurrent players. I checked yesterday, and it's still sitting at that number. I don't know what their concurrent players for Sony are. I don't know if we get that data from them.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I mean, Sony also did the same thing with Helldivers, and I think that, with Helldivers, I'm fairly certain they did much better on PC than it did on console, and I kind of suspect that that's probably the case with most of their multiplayer stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. Yeah, you can't see any of that info.
No, they wouldn't let anyone have that.
No.
Then it would be revealed that like only 8 people have PlayStation 5s.
I mean, as I look at my PS5 that I haven't turned on in a very long time.
Part of the 1%.
Yeah. Well, literally since I beat God of War Ragnarok, like I just have not turned it back on.
A year ago.
Mm-hmm. I know. I'm horrible.
No.
What a waste of money. I should have just got a Steam Deck instead.
No, I mean, those things are going to be so rare in 20 years, man.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Maybe if I don't turn it on for, like another 15 years, I can get some good money for it. New PS5.
Everyone wants to go back and replay Ghost of Tsushima on...
Sure.
No, that was PS4.
That was a PS4. The new Spider-Man 2?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is going to be on PC next year.
Yeah, Ragnarok's coming out, like, in a week or two.
Soon. Yeah. All those games that people really want the old PS5.
Yep.
I mean, maybe they'll just want to take the case and use it as an air filter. That's what I think they should do.
Yeah. It definitely has the quality of one. It's got a lot of vents to it. Mm-hmm. So what I've been playing.
What have you been playing, Mike?
So I've been playing 2 things. One I very much am enjoying, and one I'm going to warn people not to play.
Ooh.
Yeah. So we'll start with the thing I'm enjoying. Tactical Breach Wizards.
Oh yeah, that moved up to my wish
XCOM
list
2,
very high.
Yeah, itch in such a good way. The art style is really fun. It's very abstract. Like it looks almost like some clip art, character modeling and stuff, but it works for the game. They've got this really cool mechanic in it. So as you're moving around on the map, when you're getting ready to end your turn, you can actually look and see what's going to happen ahead of time. So there's a lot more objective-based things happening within the scenario. So you have to kind of time out, like in the very first tutorial mission. So this isn't spoiling anything. You get to a certain point where you realize I can either save this person or I can save this other person, but I can't do both. And you have to make that decision. So it's not cheapening the strategy by being able to look ahead and see what's going to happen after your turn. It actually intensifies the dilemma of making those choices. It's really good. I'm enjoying it a lot. And anyone who likes an XCOM style combat game, this is the one to play right now. And it's not even that expensive. Let me look up. Let me see here how much that's $18. Not bad at all.
Yeah.
And I know that's not a good basis. Normally 20. It looks like it's 10% off right now as it's come out, but my God, such a fun game for a low price point. Absolutely worth it. On the other end of the spectrum, a game with a very high price point and not enjoyable. Black Myth Wukong.
Oof. So, I have to. I'm curious because like I have only heard good things about this game from people who like these sorts of games.
The
So
combat
curious.
is some of the worst I've ever experienced in an action game. It's
Okay.
too simplistic. It's too repetitive. You have a couple different skill trees you can go down, but at the end of the day, all you're doing is you're using your light attack combo until you fill up your gauge enough times that you can spam a heavy attack that hopefully gets able to be pulled off if you don't get interrupted by an enemy while you're doing it. And then you rinse and repeat. That's it. You have a couple spells, quote unquote, that you can use. Um, they do have their own skill trees that can be leveled. It plays a little bit like Neo, but without difficulty
Okay.
for the combat. Um, I don't know. There's no counter button. It's just dodging. You do get this neat ability, which in the beginning I thought was going to be very transformative, literally, because you'll fight a mini boss and you'll take their essence and then you can become them for an attack
Interesting. Yeah.
that you just level up each one and they gain like more attack power or maybe a longer stun duration from when you hit something. You gain a different power that lets you become bosses that you fight. Those ones you can't, like, they don't have their own individual skill trees. It's just like you have a transformation skill tree that just lets you stay in that form a little longer, maybe do a little more damage with it. And that whole point of that transformation is always spam light attack until you can pull off a heavy attack. Like, there's just, I don't know. It's so basic. There's something missing between it too, because yeah, there's a lot of boss fights, and that's kind of how the game was marketed. Was it's going to be boss battles all the time, baby. But they do have like areas where you have to run around and fight little enemies. They're just there's not that many. The enemies all kind of start to wash together after a little while. I don't know. It didn't click with me. I beat the whole thing and it never the visuals stunning. The
Mm.
story absent. Um like if you don't already know the story of Journey to the West, you're not going to know what's going on in this game. Even
Can you
when the
watch Dragon
headless
Ball? Does that
bard
count?
Yeah, probably. Like you can get away with that. Even when the headless bard comes in and tries to like sing rock like a story to you, it's not. I don't know. It just didn't click with me. I wouldn't recommend it for most people. If you're trying to play it for like a Souls-like experience, this isn't the game, like at all. If you just want like more of a Bayonetta or I don't know, even Bayonetta's got like difficulty to it.
Okay. Yeah, and it definitely has like specking and
Yeah,
you
there's
know like
look, I'm not saying that there aren't skill trees in this and that you can't like one boss fight I made a bunch of different armor types and one of the armor sets gives you bonuses to like your stamina and health recovery if you're in water. And there's a boss fight where you have to fight this like tiger demon in a lake of blood. And I was like, well, blood's basically water. It's mostly water. So I put on that suit and yeah, it worked. I was able to like get my stamina and health regen going. But it wasn't even enough to make a difference. So I just went back to the other stuff, which gave me more attack up and just finished the fight that way. I don't know. It's just, there's something lacking to it, and I can't tell what it is. I don't know if maybe adding a parry mechanic would have made things more engaging than just having the dodge. There's supposed to be a whole stance you can go into where you climb up on the pole because you're using like the extend a pole.
mm-hmm.
All the tools that you would have as Goku.
exactly.
Yeah.
Do you get the cloud too?
Oh yeah. No, first opening sequence is you flying on the Nimbus. Yeah. But there's just something missing from the combat. I don't know what it is, but it's just even like beating a boss that I found like challenging. It wasn't because I found them like difficult. It's just like, oh, well, they'll just kill you in 2 hits no matter what you do. So you just have to beat this fight sequence without ever really getting hit. And then when you finally beat it, you don't get that like dopamine rush that you get from like a Souls like. I don't know. There's just something generic to it. And I know this is like an indie studio that I know for as polished as it is, supposedly it's an indie studio, but I don't want to shit on them too much for trying something. This isn't a challenging combat game.
Yeah, well, I mean, as long as it looks pretty, right?
I guess. Yeah, if that's all you want, but like at that point, just turn it into like one of those demos that you can see on a screen at Best Buy where it's not actually a playable game. That's what it feels like. It feels like someone took like the demo screen to a really nice gaming laptop and went like, well, what if we could add like some button controls to the like, yeah, we can add some controls, I guess. That's it.
Like Heavenly Sword or whatever that was for the PS3.
Yeah. I don't know. Did not like it, which sucks because I've been excited for that game for like 2 years.
I don't know. I think it's interesting. Like I think that I do worry sometimes that we kind of we follow the not just you but me as well. Like we tend to follow trends a lot, and I'm happy that this is one that is I'm happy that we can offer a dissenting opinion, I guess.
Everyone that I have spoken to that has the game has been enjoying it a lot. So this is a me thing. But I don't know. The combat mainly is what I can point to as the thing that I'm the most disappointed with, which it is an action game. So
right, so it's kind of important.
Yep, kind of important.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all we got for this
I
week.
think so. I don't know. Early record.
And
still kind of shaking off the rust.
Yeah. Bit of a... I'm going to end on a downer. Is there anything else we got to talk about?
I can talk to you about a disappointing beer festival where I overpaid.
I mean, you could.
I think I just basically did.
Okay. Well, I guess with that, we will say goodbye. Thank you for listening to the podcast. If you liked it, leave a review and share it.
Please.
All that good stuff. Sorry about the weird upload schedule this summer. Mike has been crazy busy, and I had like wicked COVID for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So things is sorting out now. We'll be back to our regular schedule going forward.
Yeah. Work's very much quieting out now. We're starting to get those days where we might have like a couple dozen orders through the whole like shift, which I don't know. I'm gonna have to figure that out. That's gonna be a whole new challenge I have to figure out. But for the most part, I think I'm gonna be
vegetables fresh.
Well, a lot of pickling is gonna be happening here. I'll tell you that much. But no, overall, I think we're gonna be back onto a regular schedule and have a little more free time to play some longer games. And
maybe we'll revisit the world of Yakuza.
I definitely want to. I had to stop playing Infinite Wealth for a while there because it was taking up too much of my time, and I barely scratched the surface. Once I got to the what was it, Dondoko Island or whatever it is, the Stardew Valley version, I was like, oh well, this is just the game I'm playing now. And that became a problem. We'll talk about that another time, though. We still have to get through the man who erased his name before we touch that.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks for listening. I've been Arvid.
I've been Mike.
Bye.
Bye.
Don't stop recording.
Okay.
Don't stop recording.
Don't stop. Can't stop.
Don't stop. Doo-ba-doo boop. Ba-ba-da ba-ba boop boop boop. Bring it all back to you.
I don't know. It's still just the whole morning that's been going through my head. I can't help it. It's infectious.
Bit of a Midwestern goodbye on this episode too. Got like a good 8 minutes of us not talking about it, just standing in the doorway, as it were.
Uh-huh. Yeah.